Hey guys, welcome back to another TKOR React video, and today we have a special guest reacting with us, lockpicking lawyer.
Hey there, folks.
Thanks for being with us. Today we're going to be looking at some video clips of people picking locks in TV and movies and discussing how realistic we think they are. Mostly him.
Because we're not experts in this.
This is the first one. It's from Midnight Run. Robert De Niro's about to do some lockpicking, so let's see how well he does. Wow, that turning tool's been up pretty bad. Seen some hard use.
Doesn't look brand new.
Okay, let's pause it for a moment. He's using something called a snap gun, and what that does is has a blade that goes all the way into the lock that rests against the bottom pins, and when he snaps that, it just bumps all of those pins up in the hope that it creates a space between the key pin and the driver pin. And if that's the case, that turning tool will rotate and the lock will open.
He's moving back like he's trying to get each pin individually. Is that normal?
No, you usually do all of them at once.
Another clip from the same film.
Okay, let's stop for a moment.
So he's got a rake that he starts with this time.
He was doing something there. The problem is, that is the wrong angle he's got. He's not actually touching any of the key pins except perhaps the very first one. So the motion he has, that is just pulling that out, that's a picking technique called zipping. It's a little bit like raking, but it's done with a hook, but he's not quite doing it right. Just has the angles wrong. Other than that, pretty realistic. That is potentially a workable method. Overall, this isn't bad. For movie lockpicking, I think they did a pretty good job. This is actually something that's pretty easy to improvise out of something simple like a coat hanger. You guys want to try that one out?
Let's do it. That seems like it should be a fun project.
I've never actually made them before, so that's a first for me as well, but I do know people who have, and they can work. Okay, this is from Breaking Bad. I've received a ton of comments and emails asking me if this is realistic, so this is something I've definitely watched before. Here they're going up to a warehouse door and just putting a satchel of thermite on it.
A little pack of it, and then with a propane torch, they take about 2 seconds.
I like how quickly it lights.
That's
lights the
completely
thermite.
unrealistic, lighting the thermite.
That does kind of look like a thermite reaction. Actually, I think they've got an angle grinder throwing sparks there to get that shot, but so yeah, the metal housing is broken and somehow they just grab the door and pull it open now. So even there should have been a bolt coming out of the door holding it locked, and somehow their thermite removed that.
It's completely unrealistic. There was never a bolt holding this closed. They just put some pyrotechnics on the door, lit them, and opened it.
So they could have just opened the door and gotten in to begin with.
This is not realistic. Now, there are ways to open locks with thermite. I've featured them on my channel in the past, but this one doesn't work.
Well, we like to do stuff with thermite here, and I do think it'd be fun to try and make the best case scenario with this and see if we can get anything similar to this result. I have some doubts, but I think it would be a fun thing to try anyway.
If you're asking me if I want to light a fire, the answer is definitely yes. Let's do it.
Perfect.
Okay, Tommy Lee Jones just told him to get out of his own handcuffs. So let's see what he does. He looks around carefully at each person and selects one pair of glasses. Now let me note, there aren't a lot of glasses on which this will work, so it's realistic he would have looked carefully at each of the three people.
He either didn't like Tommy Lee Jones's aviators, or he felt it was unwise to grab Tommy Lee Jones's face.
Yeah. So he just broke off one of the arms of the glasses, and we can't really see what he's doing.
Messing around, and with a sudden jerking motion.
Okay, so both of them opened at once.
Yeah.
Both popped off and fell to the floor.
There are ways to open handcuffs using glasses. I don't know of any that will open both of them at the same time.
Because they're not connected at all.
But it's not really easy to see exactly what they're doing.
There is another clip earlier in this movie of another character using a piece of glasses to escape from handcuffs that shows a little bit more of what he's doing.
Okay, let's check it out.
So here we see Wesley Snipes' character, who we earlier watched steal this arm of glasses, and he hid it in his cast.
Okay, let's stop for just a moment. That's a pretty thick glasses arm
It
to open
is.
handcuffs. I don't know if that one would work.
And he's using the end that was the hinges on the glasses. It's not just the thin bar in the middle, like he's got the portion that I think still even has a bit of the hinge attachment on it. And he's trying to fit it into the keyway to pick those
That's not
handcuffs.
very realistic.
No.
Okay, so this popped open. If he did have the correct glass arm that would fit into what's usually a pretty tiny little keyway on it, law enforcement handcuffs.
I have some doubts that what
Then it
he was
might
using
actually
would
work.
have fit.
I mean, those look like an aviator. I mean, they probably came off like glasses, but
they
they look
looked-
like an aviator.
They looked like this. The glasses that he took them off of were similar in style to these ones.
So I would say the concept of what they're doing is realistic. The execution could be a lot better.
Gotcha.
So do you guys want to learn how to do that?
I want to break
Absolutely.
some glasses.
Brought some handcuffs along. We brought some glasses. Hopefully
Yes.
we can get one of them to work.
Let's
If not,
learn
we've
how to do
got a
that.
key.
Always important.
Okay, so this is from Wrong Turn 4. They are some creatures in a prison cell.
They grabbed some wire
Something
off
off the ground.
They've got no technique to speak of that I can see.
Just
Just
wiggling.
sort of shake the wire around in the lock and hope for the best.
I'm not sure of the exact model. Looks like an armored mogul cylinder. Oh, and they've got it open already.
It seems it
Jeez.
seems to have worked.
There's no way you could jiggle a lock like
There's
that.
a couple problems with this. and-
Okay.
But it's not as unrealistic as you might think. The problem is they never actually turned the
Saw
cylinder.
that. It
Yeah.
didn't twist. It just
They just jiggled
clicked.
around. That said, I have taken very similar prison locks on my channel and jiggled them open in under 5 seconds.
Wow.
So
That's slightly terrifying.
I can't say that's unrealistic. It's a possibility.
So their technique, not realistic, but their approach perhaps doable.
Could work.
Fascinating.
That's slightly scary. Okay, on with the next one. Okay, so this one is from White Collar, and they're trying to design a better lock that is unpickable. And you have some
Okay,
experience
and he just
in
said
that,
he
you
was
know?
going to bump it, which is a thing. He hit it once and gave up. That's not realistic. Usually you have to do it at least several times before bumping will work. He put 2 tools in, a turning tool and a pick. Tension's unreadable, that's a thing. I can't see what he's doing. He's not actually moving the pick. So
What-
he has it open now?
They
Yeah.
bluff inside the cylinder. Does that mean something?
Okay.
Or
Well,
that he
there's a
used
lot
the
of things
hook.
you can do in a cylinder to make it difficult for a picker, to try to fool them into thinking it's something it's not. Overall, the techniques he used were correct. They're bumping and picking. The bumping, I think he gave up too quickly. With the picking, he used the right tools, a turning tool and a pick. I don't think he
So
got
he
the
used the
movements
hook.
right. Yeah, a hook is a thing.
Yeah.
It's a tool.
But I don't think he got the movements right. But overall, probably better than most movie lock picking. Sarah Connor, Terminator 2. That's a good turning tool.
It's like a
what
paper
she-
clip.
That lock moved a little. Pause here. Okay, so her turning tool is actually exactly how you would bend it if you were making a turning tool out of a paper clip.
There's a little eye at the end, so it's going to get some grip rather than just rotate inside the lock.
Exactly. And then the other one, the pick, she has bent a lot like a wave rake. So these are really close to the tools that I would use if I was trying to pick with a paper clip. I did notice that core, it has a lot of movement on it, which makes me think that lock doesn't have all of its internals, which is probably what you would expect in a movie.
I'm more concerned about why there's a lock on the inside of the door anyhow.
Well, that's pretty unrealistic. Of course, in an institution like that, they wouldn't have one there.
This is from Das Leben der Anderen, and that's all I know about it. I have no idea what this is.
Okay, it's an electro pick. He never actually turned the core. The electro pick is in the wrong part of the lock. On a European cylinder like this, the pins come up from the bottom. So the way the blade's getting inserted, they stand absolutely no chance of interacting with the pins.
That's where the spine of the key would be, not the teeth.
Exactly.
And I see what you mean. He twisted maybe 15 degrees. He didn't actually turn anything.
The noise is also off a little bit. I don't hear the rapid fire clicking I would normally hear with an electro pick. It sounds more like an electric drill.
So
overall, I give this a very low rating. There's not a lot more they could have done wrong with this.
Feels like a 0 out of 10 to me.
Maybe if they turned the electro pick around and rubbed the back end against the lock, they could have gotten it worse.
I've got a clip from Foolproof, which is actually all I know about it.
That was a good ninja slide.
I think it's important to slide up to the locks. That helps, right?
Okay, he's using 2 tools. I guess this is a training scene.
He's really focused.
Dramatic squint. It's
Come
always
on,
important.
Ryan Reynolds, you can do it.
Okay, I could tell from that he actually was not putting any actual torque on the core. So a little bit off, but at least the tools were in the right part of the lock.
Yeah, it doesn't look like the tension bar was just moving around in the lock. It's not twisting anything.
Overall, the motions seem realistic.
And it did show the core twist.
I'd say for a movie, not bad.
Nice.
For our final clip, we have a shot of House MD, and he is trying to get into a desk drawer with either nail file or letter opener.
Okay, that was a wafer lock. And it's actually feasible that you could open a desk drawer with one of those. These types of locks are susceptible to an attack called jiggling, and I actually have opened similar locks using just a little nail file, jiggling it while turning.
What makes this type of lock less secure? Does it have fewer pins or what?
There are no pins. There's something called wafers inside of them. And they tend to be made to very poor tolerances, so everything doesn't have to quite be lined up perfectly for it to actually work. There are such things as high security wafer locks, but you're not going to find one on a desk drawer.
Especially what looks to be an older desk drawer. It's probably not been well cared for or anything either.
Exactly. I would say that if that was someone who knew what they were doing, there's a fair chance of that working.
All right, well, I believe we get to the point where this doctor doesn't know what he's doing and gets the other doctor to take over for him. And he reaches in and grabs a couple of paper clips off the desk instead of continuing to use the letter opener or nail file, whichever it was. So we didn't see his hands for a second, but now he's got 2 tools in the lock at least.
Now it's hard to see how those paper clips were modified. It's possible they could work depending on how he bent them, but at least he's using 2.
Would you still loop one of them in this case?
You would modify them almost exactly the same as Sarah Connor.
Interesting.
Is it open?
Nope, he did it.
No, it's open.
So he got into that desk through that wafer lock.
The core didn't turn.
No.
So if the core didn't turn, they didn't unlock it. So that part was unrealistic. The use of 2 paper clips could be done. The use of that nail file or letter opener could also work. So they used 2 plausible techniques and 2 plausible sets of tools. They just got the technique a little off.
Well, it sounds like Hollywood needs to start hiring you as a consultant for how to pretend that you're picking locks so that it looks better on screen.
Or I could just teach them how to actually pick locks.
Thanks again to Lockpicking Lawyer for joining us today. We've had a great time and hope you have as well.
It was an absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Guys, the Lockpicking Lawyer has over 1,000 videos on his channel and every single one of them is fantastic. You should go check them out immediately.
You are truly a connoisseur. I couldn't agree more.